In the heart of a dense, shadowy forest, where the trees stood like ancient sentinels and the moonlight rarely dared to pierce the thick canopy, a remote and eerie camping site awaited its unwitting visitors. This was no ordinary forest. It was haunted by a history marred with darkness, and it harbored secrets that the world had long forgotten. Sarah and Mark, an adventurous couple in their late 20s, decided to embark on a romantic camping trip in the wilderness. Their love was unwavering, and the prospect of spending time together amidst nature's embrace excited them. Armed with a backpack full of provisions and a passion for adventure, they ventured into the heart of the ominous woods. Their journey began with excitement and laughter, but the forest had other plans. Before long, they found themselves disoriented and lost in the labyrinth of twisted trees and eerie shadows. The forest seemed to whisper to them, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers to pull them deeper into its enigmatic grasp. As the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness settled in, fear crept into their hearts. They knew they needed shelter and stumbled upon a clearing, a small pocket of respite in the midst of the oppressive forest. There, they set up their tent and hoped that morning would bring clarity. But the night held secrets that refused to stay hidden. As they lay in their tent, the air grew icy, and strange voices whispered in the wind. Sarah clutched Mark's arm, her eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mark strained his ears, trying to decipher the whispers. "It's probably just the wind," he said, trying to reassure himself as much as her. But it wasn't the wind. It was something far more sinister, a chorus of voices from beyond the veil of the living. Ghostly apparitions swirled around the campsite, their mournful wails sending shivers down Sarah and Mark's spines. These were the lost souls of those who had ventured into the haunted forest before, souls forever trapped in its malevolent grip. As the night wore on, the apparitions grew more aggressive, their ghostly forms inching closer to the trembling couple. Mark and Sarah clung to each other, tears streaming down their faces as they realized the dire nature of their predicament. Just when hope seemed lost, a raspy voice broke through the cacophony of the restless spirits. "You shouldn't have come here," it said, dripping with melancholy. Startled, Sarah and Mark peered outside their tent to see an old man with a long, tangled beard and hollow eyes. He leaned on a gnarled wooden staff, his presence an eerie blend of foreboding and wisdom. "Who are you?" Mark demanded, his voice quivering. "I am Elijah," the old man replied, his voice a haunting echo in the darkness. "And I am the last living soul to have wandered into this forsaken forest and lived to tell the tale." Elijah's story unfolded like a macabre fairy tale, a tale of curses and lost love, of betrayal and revenge. He revealed that the camping site they had stumbled upon was no ordinary clearing but the very heart of the forest's malevolence, a place where the spirits of the wronged sought to exact their vengeance. As the night waned, Elijah's words painted a horrifying picture of the campsite's tragic history. Sarah and Mark learned that the forest had been home to a community long ago, a community that had trespassed on the land of an ancient, vengeful spirit. The spirit had cursed them, and their souls had become eternally bound to the forest, forever tormented by the darkness they had unleashed. Sarah and Mark listened in aghast horror as Elijah spoke of how those who ventured into the cursed camping site met a fate worse than death. The spirits hungered for companionship, and anyone who strayed into their domain would become a part of their never-ending torment. As the first light of dawn broke through the forest canopy, Sarah and Mark knew they had to escape the haunted camping site or share the same wretched fate as those who came before them. With Elijah as their guide, they navigated the treacherous terrain, stepping lightly through the web of ghostly apparitions. The forest seemed to resist their departure, its branches reaching out to ensnare them, but they pressed on, their resolve unbroken. With every step, the forest grew quieter, and the mournful wails of the lost souls faded into the distance. Finally, they emerged from the darkness of the haunted forest, the air suddenly crisp and refreshing. Behind them, the forest loomed like a brooding specter, its secrets buried deep within its ancient heart. Sarah and Mark never spoke of their harrowing night in the haunted camping site again, but the memory would haunt their dreams for years to come. They had ventured into the darkness, and for a brief moment, it had threatened to consume them. It was a reminder that some places were best left unexplored. That curiosity could lead to consequences beyond imagination. As they walked away from the forest, they clung to each other, grateful to have escaped with their lives. They knew they had been lucky, that not everyone who entered that cursed place had the same fortune. The haunted camping site would forever remain a sinister enigma, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead grew thin, and where the consequences of trespassing in forbidden places were all too real. In a remote, forsaken corner of the world, where the chilling whispers of the wind danced through the trees, there lay an unsettling camping site, nestled on the shores of a cursed lake. This was no ordinary lake. Its waters held secrets buried deep beneath the surface, secrets that had festered for decades. 4 friends, Alex, Emma, Mike, and Lisa, found themselves drawn to this eerie destination. They had been inseparable during their school years, but life had scattered them to the winds. Now, they sought to rekindle their friendship with a camping trip that would, unbeknownst to them, lead them into the heart of darkness. The day they arrived was shrouded in mist, and the lake was like a sheet of glass, reflecting nothing but foreboding gray skies. The camping site had an air of abandonment, as if it had been forgotten by time itself. Broken tents and rusted camping gear littered the area, remnants of past adventurers who had vanished without a trace. As they set up their camp, unease settled upon them like a heavy fog. The lake's waters were calm, but something about them seemed unnatural, as if they held the memories of all those who had disappeared within their depths. That evening, as they huddled around a flickering campfire, Alex noticed something peculiar out on the lake. A line of floating lanterns appeared, their soft, ghostly glow casting an eerie light on the water. They moved in a slow, deliberate procession, like lost souls searching for their way home. "Did you guys see that?" Alex asked, his voice trembling. The others turned their gaze to the lake, their faces etched with confusion and fear. Emma whispered, "It's just an illusion. The lake does strange things to your mind." But they couldn't tear their eyes away. The lanterns drew closer, and as they did, ghostly apparitions materialized around them, figures in old-fashioned camping gear, their faces pale and twisted in anguish. Mike's voice quivered as he spoke. "This can't be real. It's got to be some sort of trick." Lisa, however, had a different theory. She had always been drawn to the mysterious and supernatural. "I think they're trying to tell us something," she said, her voice barely audible. As if in response, the apparitions began to speak, their voices carrying across the water like a mournful symphony. They told a tale of a camping trip gone horribly wrong, of a group of friends just like them who had ventured to this very spot decades ago. They spoke of whispers in the night, of eerie shadows in the woods, and of a malevolent force that had torn them apart, one by one. The friends sat in horrified silence, listening to the chilling tale. They couldn't deny the resemblance between the apparitions and themselves. The same number of friends, the same desire for adventure, and now the same haunted fate. It was then that a realization struck Alex. "The lake," he said, his voice trembling, "it's not cursed. It's angry." The others turned to him, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Emma asked. Alex explained that the lake had been a witness to a terrible event many years ago. The friends who had vanished here had left behind a trail of guilt and betrayal. Their secrets had poisoned the very waters of the lake. And now the spirits sought retribution. The apparitions drew closer, their mournful gazes fixed upon the four friends. As they did, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The campsite seemed to come alive, tent stakes twisting like skeletal fingers, and the lake's waters roiled in anger. "We have to make amends," Alex said, his voice determined. "We have to confront our guilt and apologize for what happened here." With that, the friends embarked on a desperate journey to uncover the truth. They retraced the steps of the ill-fated campers, piecing together the events of that fateful night. Along the way, they encountered eerie manifestations, ghostly echoes of the past that served as grim reminders of what had transpired. The deeper they delved into the darkness, the more they realized that the sins of the past had taken physical form. The malevolent force that had torn apart the earlier group of friends was now unleashed upon them, a relentless specter seeking to claim their souls. As they reached the heart of the mystery, they discovered the remains of a campfire from long ago, its embers still smoldering. It was there that they confronted the malevolent force, a swirling, shadowy presence that loomed over them. In a final, harrowing confrontation, the friends confessed their guilt and sorrow, their voices trembling with remorse. The malevolent force, unable to resist the weight of their sincerity, gradually dissipated, its dark energy dispersing like mist on the morning breeze. The lake's waters grew still once more, the apparitions faded into nothingness, and the campsite returned to its abandoned, forsaken state. But the four friends had paid a heavy price, their souls forever marked by the horrors they had witnessed. As they left the haunted camping site behind, they knew that they had escaped the clutches of the malevolent force, but the memories of that night would haunt them for the rest of their lives. They had confronted their guilt and unraveled the dark mysteries of the lake. But they had also come face to face with the unforgiving darkness that lurked in the human heart. The cursed lake would remain a place of eerie legend, a testament to the sins of the past, and a warning to all who ventured too close. The sins of those who had disappeared had come back to haunt the present, and the four friends had learned the importance of confronting one's guilt before it consumed them. In the heart of a misty, cursed forest, where ancient trees stood shrouded in perpetual gloom, there existed a hauntingly beautiful camping site, its allure masking the hidden dangers that lurked within. This was no ordinary forest. It was said to be a realm where the living and the dead converged, where the ethereal melodies of a spectral violinist carried secrets that could ensnare the unwary. Emily, a talented musician in her late 20s, had long been seeking inspiration for her compositions. She had heard whispers of the forest's haunting beauty and ventured into its depths in search of creative solace. Armed with her violin and a heart hungry for inspiration, she entered the misty woods, unaware of the enigmatic fate that awaited her. As Emily ventured deeper into the forest, the world around her seemed to shift and warp. The mist hung heavy in the air, casting an eerie pallor over the surroundings. The trees bore twisted, contorted shapes, as if they were reaching out to touch her, to draw her into their haunting embrace. One night, as Emily set up her camp in a small clearing, a melody began to drift through the mist. The haunting notes of a violin sliced through the silence, the sound simultaneously beautiful and melancholic. It was a melody that spoke of longing and sorrow, of a soul yearning for release. Unable to resist the allure of the music, Emily followed its haunting strains through the forest. The melody seemed to beckon her deeper into the woods, and she moved as if in a trance, her violin held close to her heart. The mist swirled around her, whispering secrets she could not decipher. In a moonlit glen, Emily found herself face to face with the source of the haunting music. A spectral figure stood before her, a violin cradled in its translucent hands. The figure's eyes, pools of darkness, met hers with a mixture of sadness and longing. It was Victor, the spectral violinist. "Who are you?" Emily asked, her voice quivering. Victor's response came not in words but in the ethereal strains of his violin. The music told a story of love and betrayal, of a life cut short in its prime, and of a forest cursed by a tragic history. Emily listened, her heart aching for the soul trapped within the spectral form. As the music reached its crescendo, Emily realized that she held the key to Victor's release. She had to unravel the melody's secrets, to decipher its hidden message. With trembling fingers, she began to play along with Victor, her own violin joining his haunting tune. The forest seemed to respond to their music. The trees swayed in time with the melody, and the mist danced around them like a spectral audience. Emily and Victor played as if their souls were intertwined, each note a desperate plea for freedom. Hours passed, and Emily's fingers ached, but she pressed on. She had to free Victor from his spectral prison. And then, in a moment of revelation, the melody changed, revealing a haunting truth. The forest's curse was born of betrayal, of a love betrayed and a promise broken. With tears in her eyes, Emily played the final, heart-wrenching notes. The forest trembled, and Victor's form began to dissipate, his spectral visage fading into the mist. But before he vanished completely, he mouthed a silent thank you to Emily, his eyes filled with gratitude. As Victor's presence faded, the forest seemed to sigh in relief, the curse lifted, and the mist began to recede. Emily stood alone in the moonlight, her violin still cradled in her hands, her heart heavy with the weight of the forest's history. The following morning, Emily left the cursed forest behind, forever changed by her encounter with Victor and the haunting melody that had bound him for so long. She knew that the allure of beauty could often mask hidden dangers, that the world was a place of both darkness and light. As she emerged from the misty woods, Emily carried with her the knowledge that music had the power to transcend dimensions, to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. She had unlocked the secrets of the forest's haunting melody, and in doing so, she had set free a soul that had been trapped in a timeless symphony of sorrow. The cursed forest would forever remain a place of melancholic beauty, a testament to the allure of the unknown, and a reminder that sometimes the most haunting melodies carried the deepest truth. Emily had ventured into its depths seeking inspiration. But she had found something far more profound, a connection that transcended the boundaries of life and death, and the enduring power of music to communicate across dimensions. In the heart of a secluded forest, hidden away from the world's prying eyes, lay a camping site with an ominous secret. This was no ordinary campsite. It rested upon the hallowed and cursed grounds of a Native American burial site. The sacredness of this place had been violated, and its restless spirit sought revenge. Jake, a skeptical archaeologist in his early 30s, had long been intrigued by the mysteries of the past, driven by his desire to uncover forgotten histories. He led an archaeological expedition into the heart of the forest, hoping to unearth artifacts that would reveal the secrets of this ancient land. The camping site was chosen as their base of operations, and Jake, along with his team of researchers, set up their equipment amidst the towering trees. The air was thick with tension, and a sense of foreboding settled over the campsite like a shroud. As the sun dipped below the horizon, strange occurrences began to unfold. Tribal symbols, long thought lost to time, began to materialize around the camp. They appeared on rocks, in the dirt, and even etched themselves onto the trees. Jake dismissed these signs as mere coincidence, attributing them to the work of pranksters or overactive imaginations. But soon, the forest itself seemed to come alive. Strange whispers drifted through the night air, and ghostly figures flitted through the shadows. Jake's skepticism wavered as he caught fleeting glimpses of apparitions, their eyes filled with anger and sorrow. One fateful night, as the campfire crackled and the team gathered around, a powerful presence made itself known. It was the vengeful spirit of a tribal shaman, his form both ethereal and imposing. The air grew cold, and the forest fell silent, as if the very earth dared not defy the shaman's wrath. Who dares trespass upon this sacred land? The shaman's voice boomed, echoing through the campsite. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he stammered, I am an archaeologist. We mean no harm. We seek only to uncover the secrets of the past. The shaman's eyes blazed with fury as he recounted the violation of the burial grounds. He spoke of the desecration of his people's resting place, of artifacts stolen and ancient rituals disrupted. He had been unjustly killed, and his spirit bound to the land until justice was served. Jake, though still skeptical of the supernatural, recognized the gravity of the situation. He knew that the only way to quell the shaman's anger was to uncover the truth of what had transpired all those years ago. The next day, the expedition delved deep into the forest, following the shaman's guidance. Tribal symbols led the way, illuminating their path through the tangled undergrowth. As they journeyed deeper into the woods, they came upon a hidden cave, the final resting place of the shaman. Inside the cave, they discovered the shaman's remains, his body preserved by the natural elements. Beside him lay the stolen artifacts, relics that had been taken from the sacred burial site. It was clear that the shaman had been murdered while trying to protect the sacred grounds. Jake and his team carefully collected the artifacts, vowing to return them to their rightful place. As they did, the atmosphere in the cave shifted, and the shaman's vengeful presence began to fade. His eyes, once filled with anger, now bore a sense of resolution. The journey back to the campsite was filled with trepidation, for they knew that the shaman's spirit would not rest until justice had been served. Upon their return, they conducted a ceremony, returning the stolen artifacts to their rightful place within the burial grounds. As the last artifact was placed, the earth seemed to sigh in relief, and the shaman's presence finally dissipated. The forest, once shrouded in tension and anger, now radiated a sense of peace. The tribal symbols that had led them to the shaman's resting place faded away, their purpose fulfilled. Jake had put the vengeful spirit to rest, and in doing so, he had learned a valuable lesson about the consequences of disrespecting sacred spaces and the importance of cultural understanding. As Jake and his team left the forest, they did so with a newfound reverence for the past and a deep respect for the beliefs and traditions of the indigenous people who had once called this land home. The cursed burial site would forever remain a testament to the clash between the living and the dead, a reminder that some places were meant to be left undisturbed, and that justice, even in the afterlife, would always find a way to be served. In the depths of a sinister forest, where gnarled trees loomed like ancient sentinels and the night air was thick with ominous whispers, there lay a haunted camping site shrouded in darkness. This was a place of dread and foreboding, where the past clung to the present and secrets festered like unseen wounds. A group of college friends, each burdened by their own hidden fears and unspoken guilt, had gathered for a camping trip to reconnect and find solace in nature's embrace. They arrived at the cursed campsite with the promise of adventure, unaware of the malevolent forces that awaited them. As they set up their camp, the atmosphere grew tense. The forest seemed to close in around them, and the shadows deepened, casting long, eerie fingers across the ground. It was around the campfire that the first strange occurrence unfolded. As the friends huddled around the flickering flames, their faces illuminated by the dancing firelight, they began to share campfire stories. Stories of ghosts, monsters, and unsolved mysteries filled the air, and the darkness seemed to drink in their words, absorbing the tales of fear and uncertainty. But then, something unsettling happened. The stories they told began to come to life. The ghostly figures they had described took form in the shadows, and eerie sounds echoed through the trees. Panic set in as the friends realized that the campfire had awakened a malevolent force that fed on their fears. Whispers in the night taunted them, voices from the darkness revealing their innermost secrets and regrets. Each friend's guilt was exposed, laid bare for all to see. The weight of their past sins bore down upon them, and paranoia consumed their thoughts. It was Mark who cracked first, his face contorted with terror as he confessed to a terrible act of betrayal. His words were like a knife through the heart, and the campfire responded with a surge of malevolent energy. The flames leaped higher, casting grotesque shadows that danced across Mark's face. As the night wore on, the friends' darkest secrets spilled out one by one, a twisted confession of sins both real and imagined. Sarah, haunted by her past, admitted to a cruel betrayal of trust. Mike confessed to a lie that had torn a family apart. Emma revealed a hidden addiction that had consumed her life. With each confession, the campfire's flames burned hotter and brighter, their intensity matching the depth of the friends' guilt. The sinister force that surrounded them seemed to feed on their pain and suffering. But it was Lisa, with her eyes filled with tears and her voice trembling, who bore the heaviest secret of all. She confessed to a crime that had taken a life, a dark act she had hidden from the world. Her words hung heavy in the air, and the forest itself seemed to recoil from the weight of her guilt. As Lisa's confession echoed through the night, the campfire reached its climax, the flames roaring with an intensity that threatened to consume them all. The friends, racked with guilt and terror, realized that the only way to escape the malevolent force's grip was to confront their past and atone for their sins. With trembling hands, they gathered around the campfire and vowed to seek forgiveness for their actions. They would do everything in their power to right the wrongs they had committed, to make amends for the pain they had caused. As the first light of dawn broke through the forest canopy, the malevolent force began to recede, its grip loosening. The campfire's flames dwindled to a gentle, comforting glow, and the shadows retreated. The friends had faced their darkest fears and secrets, and in doing so, they had defied the curse that had haunted the camping site. As they left the sinister forest behind, forever changed by their ordeal, they knew that the power of guilt and secrets could shape one's reality, but it could also be confronted and overcome. The cursed campfire would forever remain a haunting memory, a reminder of the inescapable nature of one's past and the importance of seeking redemption for one's actions. The friends had emerged from the darkness with a newfound understanding of the weight of their choices and a determination to live their lives with honesty and integrity. In the heart of a desolate and fog-shrouded moor, where the mist clung to the ground like ethereal tendrils, there lay an eerie haunted camping site, its unsettling presence hidden in the shifting haze. This was a place where the boundary between the living and the dead grew thin, and where the moor seemed to conspire against all who dared to enter. Mark, Sarah, and their young daughter, Lily, had embarked on a family adventure in search of the unknown. The vast moorland, with its desolation and mystique, had called to them. Armed with camping gear and a sense of curiosity, they ventured deep into the fog-shrouded moor. As the sun descended below the horizon, the mists began to encircle them, thick and impenetrable. Panic set in as they realized they had lost their way, the familiar landmarks swallowed by the supernatural fog. They were trapped in a disorienting labyrinth, unable to find their path. It was then that they heard the whispers, faint voices in the distance, barely audible through the thick haze. As the whispers drew closer, they took on spectral form, revealing themselves as ghostly guides, figures clad in tattered clothing. Their faces obscured by the fog, offered assistance to the lost family. Desperate and disoriented, Mark and Sarah had no choice but to follow the phantom guides. The eerie figures seemed to glide through the moor, their footsteps making no sound. They led the family deeper into the fog, their pale, outstretched hands beckoning them forward. As they journeyed further into the moor, spectral lights began to appear in the distance. Will-o'-the-wisps, they were called, dancing orbs of pale blue and green that lured travelers to their doom. Mark and Sarah were entranced by the lights, their movements hypnotic and alluring. It was Lily, their young daughter, who broke their trance. She tugged at her parents' hands, her wide eyes filled with fear. "Something's not right," she whispered. Mark and Sarah snapped out of their daze and looked around. The phantom guides had disappeared into the fog, leaving them surrounded by the ghostly lights. Panic set in as they realized the danger they were in. They called out for the guides, but their voices were swallowed by the fog. The will-o'-the-wisps drew closer, their lights casting an eerie glow on the moor. The family's footsteps quickened, but no matter how fast they moved, the lights seemed to stay just out of reach. As the lights closed in, Lily cried out, and Mark and Sarah could feel a malevolent presence closing in around them. They had been led astray, lured deeper into the moor's supernatural grip. Just when all hope seemed lost, a haunting voice echoed through the fog, a mournful, spectral cry that sent shivers down their spines. The voice seemed to guide them away from the will-o'-the-wisps, leading them through the dense fog. As they followed the voice, they stumbled upon a long-forgotten burial mound, a place of ancient and hidden power. It was there that the spectral guides reappeared, their forms shimmering in the mist. The guides revealed the moor's dark history, a tale of betrayal and tragedy, of a love that had been torn apart by jealousy and greed. The voices in the fog were the echoes of those who had been led astray by the will-o'-the-wisps, lost to the moor's malevolence. The guides urged Mark and Sarah to seek forgiveness for their trespass and to leave the moor behind. With heavy hearts, they heeded the spirit's advice and retreated from the cursed place, their steps guided by the mournful cry of the ghostly voice. As they emerged from the fog-shrouded moor, forever changed by their ordeal, they knew that the vulnerability of families in unfamiliar territory could lead to unforeseen dangers. The haunted camping site would forever remain a place of mystery and malevolence, a testament to the blurred line between help and malevolence in the supernatural world. Mark, Sarah, and Lily had ventured into the unknown, and they had emerged with a newfound respect for the power of ancient spirits and the perils of the moor's haunting depths. In the desolate outskirts of a forgotten, decrepit mining town, where the buildings loomed like skeletal remnants of a bygone era and the air was thick with the stench of decay, there lay a chilling and haunted camping site. This was a place of darkness and despair, where the town's grim history and the greed of those who had once lived there still clung to the land. A group of urban explorers had gathered in search of a hidden treasure rumored to be buried beneath the town's ruins. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they ventured into the decaying heart of the mining town, unaware of the malevolent forces that lurked in the shadows. As they made their way through the crumbling streets, a haunting wind began to howl through the town's ruins. It was a mournful, otherworldly sound, as if the very spirits of the miners who had once toiled here were crying out in anguish. The explorers pressed on, undeterred by the eerie winds, their footsteps echoing through the empty streets. They entered the remains of an old mine, where shafts descended deep into the earth. It was there that they hoped to find the hidden treasure, a fortune said to have been lost to time. But as they delved deeper into the mine, strange occurrences began to unfold. Ghostly apparitions of miners, their faces etched with exhaustion and despair, appeared before them. They worked tirelessly, their spectral hands swinging pickaxes and shovels, as if trapped in an eternal cycle of labor. Panic set in as the explorers realized that they had unwittingly awakened vengeful spirits. The miners' eyes bore into them with accusatory glares, as if blaming them for the horrors of the past. The air grew suffocating, and the darkness closed in around them. Desperate to escape the haunting shadows, the explorers retraced their steps, but the town seemed to shift and change, the very streets rearranging themselves to confound their path. It was as if the town itself conspired to trap them in its decaying past. As they wandered deeper into the town's treacherous depths, they uncovered the grim history of greed and exploitation that had led to the miners' suffering. The town's wealthy industrialists had ruthlessly exploited the miners, subjecting them to unbearable working conditions and paying them a pittance while amassing vast fortunes. The miners had toiled in darkness, their lives sacrificed for the sake of profit. It was a legacy of unchecked greed that had left the town in ruins, and the vengeful spirits of the miners were now exacting their revenge on any who dared to disturb their rest. With each step, the explorers were haunted by the echoes of the past. The agonized cries of the miners, the clanging of pickaxes, and the oppressive weight of the town's history. The malevolent forces closed in, their spectral hands reaching out to drag the intruders into the depths of the mine, where they would be condemned to labor for all eternity. But as the explorers neared the point of no return, they stumbled upon a hidden chamber deep within the mine. Inside, they found a cache of treasure, glittering with the spoils of the town's industrialist past. It was the very fortune they had sought, but it was tainted by the suffering of the miners. Realization struck them like a blow. The treasure was not theirs to take. It was a cursed legacy of greed and cruelty. In a desperate bid for redemption, they gathered the treasure and made their way to the heart of the mine. There, they placed the treasure upon a makeshift altar, and the vengeful spirits of the miners closed in, their eyes burning with fury. But instead of attacking, the spirits seemed to pause, as if waiting for something. In a solemn voice, one of the explorers spoke of the town's dark history and the suffering of the miners. They begged forgiveness for their intrusion and offered the treasure as a symbol of their remorse. The howling wind that had filled the mine's tunnels grew still, and the spirits of the miners seemed to nod in acceptance. The curse that had bound them to the town's ruins began to lift, and the oppressive darkness receded. As the explorers made their way out of the mine, forever changed by their ordeal, they knew that the consequences of unchecked greed could haunt a place for generations. The haunted camping site on the outskirts of the decrepit mining town would forever remain a testament to the haunting legacy of industrialization, a reminder that the pursuit of wealth at any cost could lead to a lifetime of suffering and despair. The explorers had escaped the howling shadows, but the chilling echoes of the past would forever linger in their memories. In the heart of an impenetrable, ancient forest, where the trees stood tall and imposing, their branches shrouded in perpetual twilight, there lay a cursed and haunted camping site. This was a place where the boundary between the living and the dead was blurred, and where the innocence of youth could be corrupted by the fear of the unknown. A group of Boy Scouts, led by their determined scoutmaster, Mr. Johnson, had set out on an adventure deep into the forest. Armed with camping gear and a spirit of camaraderie, they ventured into the ancient woods, unaware of the malevolent forces that awaited them. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the world around them seemed to shift and change. The dense canopy of trees blocked out the sunlight, casting eerie shadows on the forest floor. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of their footsteps on the leaf-strewn ground. It was then that they heard the whispers, soft, haunting voices that seemed to emanate from the very trees themselves. The voices spoke of lost scout troops, of eerie campfire stories, and of vanished children. The scouts exchanged nervous glances, but Mr. Johnson reassured them that it was all just their imaginations playing tricks on them. But as they continued on their path, strange occurrences began to unfold. Footprints appeared in the dirt, leading them further into the forest. These were not the footprints of their own troop, but those of another, long-forgotten group of scouts. They followed the mysterious trail, their unease growing with each step. As night fell and the forest grew darker, they stumbled upon a ghostly campsite hidden deep within the woods. Tattered tents stood like spectral sentinels, and a long-extinguished campfire smoldered with eerie, blue flames. It was as if time itself had frozen in this desolate place. As they explored the campsite, they discovered patches and badges from a Boy Scout troop that had vanished decades ago. The badges bore the insignia of a troop led by a scoutmaster named Mr. Barker. The scouts had been lost without a trace, their fate a chilling mystery that had haunted the forest ever since. Whispers in the night seemed to draw closer, and ghostly apparitions of scouts began to appear around them. These were not the living scouts of Mr. Johnson's troop, but the spirits of those who had disappeared. They looked at the scouts with hollow eyes, their faces etched with sadness. One by one, the apparitions revealed their stories. They had ventured into the forest with their scoutmaster, Mr. Barker, seeking adventure and camaraderie. But the forest had other plans, and one by one, the scouts had vanished, consumed by the darkness. Mr. Johnson listened in horror as the ghosts recounted their final moments, the feeling of being watched, the sinister whispers in the night, and the overwhelming sense of fear that had gripped them. It was a tale of innocence lost in the face of the unknown. The forest had claimed them, and now, it seemed, it hungered for more. The apparitions implored Mr. Johnson and his scouts to leave the forest, to escape its grasp before it was too late. But escape was not so simple. The forest seemed to conspire against them, its trees shifting and rearranging themselves, blocking their path. The whispers grew louder, and the shadows closed in around them. Desperate to break free from the forest's grip, Mr. Johnson and his scouts retraced their steps, following the eerie footprints back to the campfire. There, they made a chilling discovery, an old journal, its pages filled with the frantic writings of Mr. Barker, the lost scoutmaster. In the journal, Mr. Barker had chronicled the growing sense of dread that had haunted him and his scouts. He wrote of strange occurrences in the forest, of phantom voices, and of an overwhelming feeling of being watched. He had tried to protect his scouts, but the forest had proven relentless. As the scouts read the journal, a haunting realization dawned upon them. The forest itself was alive with a malevolent presence, a force that fed on the fear and innocence of those who ventured into its depths. It had claimed Mr. Barker and his troop, and now it sought to claim them as well. In a desperate bid for survival, Mr. Johnson and his scouts recited a solemn promise, vowing to leave the forest and never return. The ghosts of the lost scout troop seemed to nod in approval, their hollow eyes filled with gratitude. As the scouts emerged from the haunted camping site, forever changed by their ordeal, they knew that the forest had tested their innocence and fear, but they had emerged with a newfound sense of resilience and determination. The cursed forest would forever remain a place of mystery and malevolence, a reminder that the loss of innocence in the face of the unknown could shape the course of one's life. Mr. Johnson and his scouts had ventured into the depths of the forest and had escaped with their lives, but the haunting legacy of the lost scout troop would forever linger in their memories. In a desolate valley, where the land stretched as far as the eye could see, its rugged beauty marred by the ominous presence of towering, spectral guardians, there lay a terrifying haunted camping site. This was a place where the boundaries of the mortal world and the supernatural realm blurred, and where the ancient guardians stood watch over secrets that were not meant to be revealed. Anna and David, paranormal investigators with a thirst for uncovering the unknown, had heard the whispers of the valley's malevolent guardians. Armed with cameras, recording equipment, and a sense of determination, they ventured into the desolate valley, unaware of the ancient forces that would soon confront them. As they set up their equipment at the heart of the haunted camping site, the air grew heavy with an unsettling energy. The towering guardians, massive stone figures adorned with cryptic symbols, loomed over them like silent sentinels. Their eyes, carved from ancient stone, seemed to follow Anna and David's every move. The investigators began their exploration, their cameras rolling and their senses on high alert. Eerie whispers echoed through the valley, disembodied voices that spoke in a language unknown to them. Anna and David exchanged uneasy glances but pressed on, determined to uncover the secrets of the malevolent guardians. As the night descended upon the valley, the guardians' towering forms seemed to come alive. They shifted and moved, their stone bodies reshaping themselves into new, grotesque forms. Anna and David watched in horror as the guardians closed in around them, their spectral forms casting eerie, shifting shadows. Confrontations with the guardians became more frequent and intense. They hurled bolts of energy at Anna and David, their power shaking the very ground beneath their feet. The investigators fought to maintain their composure, their cameras capturing the relentless attacks of the ancient protectors. Desperate for answers, Anna delved into research about the valley and its guardians. She uncovered a chilling legend, one that spoke of a group of ancient guardians tasked with protecting an ancient secret buried within the valley. Those who dared to seek that secret were met with the guardians' relentless wrath. Anna and David realized that their presence in the valley had angered the malevolent guardians. They had trespassed upon a sacred place and disrupted the guardians' watchful vigil. The ancient protectors were determined to drive them away, no matter the cost. In a daring bid to unlock the secrets of the valley, Anna and David conducted a ritual at the heart of the haunted camping site, attempting to communicate with the guardians. They spoke the ancient language of the valley, invoking the spirits of the guardians and asking for their guidance. The valley responded with a sudden, overwhelming surge of power. The guardians' spectral forms descended upon them, their massive figures casting dark shadows over Anna and David. The investigators were enveloped in a storm of energy, their senses overwhelmed by the ancient power of the guardians. As the ritual reached its climax, a chilling revelation unfolded. The malevolent guardians were not the malevolent force they had appeared to be. They were protectors of an ancient secret that had the power to unleash unimaginable darkness upon the world. Realization struck Anna and David as they understood the true nature of the guardians. The ancient protectors were not malevolent. They were guardians of a power that had the potential to bring about untold destruction. The malevolent forces that had plagued them were not the guardians themselves but the darkness that lurked within the valley, seeking to corrupt anyone who dared to approach the ancient secret. With newfound clarity, Anna and David concluded the ritual, appeasing the guardians and promising to leave the valley in peace. The storm of energy subsided, and the towering figures of the guardians returned to their silent vigil. As the investigators made their way out of the haunted camping site, forever changed by their ordeal, they knew that meddling with ancient forces could have dire consequences. The malevolent guardians of the desolate valley would forever remain protectors of an ancient secret, a testament to the preservation of knowledge that could bring both enlightenment and destruction. Anna and David had ventured into the depths of the valley and had emerged with a profound understanding of the ancient guardians' role in safeguarding the secrets of the past. Beside the mysterious and stagnant lake, hidden in the depths of a haunted camping site, Sarah had sought solitude and inspiration. She was a writer in search of her next great story, but what she found would plunge her into a world of darkness and torment. Sarah's tent was nestled beneath the gnarled branches of ancient trees, their leaves rustling with an unsettling whisper. It was a place that seemed untouched by time, as if the very land held its breath in anticipation of the horrors that lay within. One gloomy afternoon, as Sarah rummaged through her belongings, she discovered an old, tattered diary hidden at the bottom of her backpack. The diary was unlike any she had seen before, its pages filled with cramped, disturbing handwriting that seemed to crawl across the paper like a spider. Intrigued and unnerved, Sarah began to read. The diary belonged to a man named Samuel, and its pages told a tale of obsession and despair. Samuel had been consumed by an insatiable desire to uncover the secrets of the haunted camping site and the mysterious lake that lay beside it. As Sarah read on, she felt a chill creep down her spine. Samuel's diary entries grew increasingly disturbed, filled with ramblings about malevolent spirits and the tormented souls of the camping site. He spoke of whispers in the night and ghostly apparitions that haunted his every step. The more Sarah read, the deeper she was drawn into Samuel's world. It was as if the diary had a life of its own, its words seeping into her very being. She could feel the presence of Samuel's tormented spirit, a malevolent force that seemed to hover over her like a shadow. As night fell over the haunted camping site, Sarah's tent became a haven for the restless spirit. She could hear faint whispers in the darkness, the same whispers that Samuel had described in his diary. Ghostly apparitions began to manifest, their pale forms moving through the shadows. Terrified and unable to escape the haunting presence, Sarah knew that she had to uncover the truth about Samuel's fate. She continued to read the diary, following the twisted path of his obsession deeper into the darkness. In the diary, Samuel had written of a hidden cave beneath the lake, a place where he believed the source of the haunting lay. He had become consumed by the need to uncover its secrets, convinced that it held the key to the spirits that tormented him. Driven by a desperate determination, Sarah ventured to the edge of the lake, where the stagnant waters seemed to hold the secrets of centuries. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of dread, she waded into the murky depths, guided by the directions in Samuel's diary. The cave was as dark and foreboding as she had imagined, its entrance shrouded in shadows. As Sarah entered, the air grew heavy with the weight of the past, and the walls seemed to close in around her. She could hear faint whispers echoing through the cave, the same whispers that had haunted Samuel. Deeper into the cave she went, her heart pounding with each step. The walls were covered in cryptic symbols, and the floor was littered with bones. It was a place of death and darkness, and Sarah could feel the malevolent spirit drawing closer. In the heart of the cave, Sarah made a shocking discovery, an ancient, ornate chest hidden beneath a pile of bones. It was covered in strange markings, and when she opened it, she found a collection of diaries identical to Samuel's, each one filled with the tormented writings of those who had come before him. As she read through the diaries, a chilling revelation unfolded. The cursed diary had been passed down through generations, each writer becoming consumed by the obsession that had plagued Samuel. The malevolent spirit, bound to the diary, had lured them to their doom. Sarah realized that she was trapped in a never-ending cycle of torment, just like those who had come before her. The diary had ensnared her, and the malevolent spirit was drawing closer, ready to claim her soul. Desperate to break the curse, Sarah wrote her own entry in the diary, begging for release from the torment that had consumed her. She pleaded with the malevolent spirit to spare her and to break free from the endless cycle of suffering. As she finished writing, a sense of dread washed over her, and she felt the presence of the malevolent spirit drawing closer. It was as if the very air around her had thickened with darkness. But then, in a moment of haunting silence, the spirit seemed to hesitate. Sarah watched in awe as the diary's pages began to turn on their own, the words of the malevolent spirit vanishing into thin air. The curse was broken, and the spirit was free. As Sarah emerged from the cave, forever changed by her ordeal, she knew that the power of written words could bridge the gap between the living and the dead. The haunted camping site beside the mysterious lake would forever remain a place of darkness and torment, a testament to the consequences of obsession with the past. Sarah had ventured into the depths of the cursed diary and had emerged with a profound understanding of the malevolent guardians that lurked within its pages.